Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ms. Raatz. It's a pleasure to have you here. You're a very accomplished, very successful musician. You have a lot of accolades under your belt, and in general, it's an honor to have you on our interview series. Well, first off, I'd love to know what brought you to the journey of violin? What started it all? What first drew you to the instrument?
Thank you so much for your invitation. I'm really happy to be here with you. It's also an honor for me to speak with you and to talk to your public. And yes, I'm very happy to answer your questions. And if I can be helpful with anything, I'm for you today. So my music journey is very special because it's not a normal and common music path that usually the soloists have. And as you know, I come from the musical family, which is just part of the truth. And yeah, so music was present in my family, in the family of my father. So it was kind of obvious for me, to be close to the music. So that was pretty simple.
Right, right. And because your family were musicians, did you feel a lot of pressure from your father, your grandfather to play?
Well, this not obvious part and the very strange part of my path as a musician, because that's truth. My father and the part of his family, so that part of my family, they are and they were a musician, but I grew up with the family of my mother, who was not a musician,
Mm,
and in that part of the family, nobody was a musician, and I was completely not supported, and there was not a lot of understanding for that occupation because they were just, they said themselves they were a normal people with, normal occupation, and they thought being a professional musician is just the worst occupation you can have. So I was kind of the weird sheep in the family, and I really wanted to do it. And actually, I was struggling a lot, to do it and to do it some way against the family.
right.
So
So
that
how
was,
did you first start studying with a teacher? Did you find them by yourself?
no, no, of course not. You know, it was like this. My father, he's a professional musician, and he was traveling and playing a lot of concerts,
Mhm.
and he was at home just once per year. So I saw him just once per year. So we can imagine. So I had that contact with the music when he was at home practicing, but it was just 2 weeks per year, so it was nothing. Um, and he really wanted me to be a musician, but he he wanted me to have this basic music education, and he wanted me to make this primary school to have some idea about the music, like a general education. So we moved to another city, a little bit bigger city, and there was a music school. So I just went to the regular music school without any teacher preference, just like that, just like a normal kid with no uh, pressure at all for being a soloist or something like this. So it was kind of, yeah, just normal thing.
Well, I'm sure you put in a lot of work because you eventually studied with a few quite incredible teachers. For example, Zachar Braun, Benjamin Schmidt as well. And I was wondering, did did these periods with different teachers really influence your interpretation of music, or how did they sort of form your music philosophy?
Well, those two names are so important to me. And the point is that I started to work with them pretty late. You
Mm,
know, I also think if I would have this possibility to work with them much earlier, that my path as a soloist would be much, much different. Um, well, but because I had to struggle, the really, the beginning of my career, or just, the process of learning the violin, because it was not yet the career. I was struggling really myself alone. Sometimes my father, was there, but it was really rare, very rare. Well, so I realized when I was, yeah, actually very early, I realized I want to do it, for my life, really. when I was 7 or something like this. I was completely in love in my instrument. And I had to choose the teachers myself. So it was just, a school, a teacher, and I just finished my school in Poland like this without any special soloist, education like this. And then when of course, I was a little bit older, I was 16, 17, I realized, well, I really want to do it seriously. I really need a good teachers, and I cannot be in some little city in Poland, with a teacher playing in the orchestra without solo career, and because it's completely different world than playing in the orchestra. I don't want to say it's something worse, completely not, of course. It's just different. Well, when I was 16, I knew I have to do it, somehow in a different way. So I changed my school. I was living in boarding school alone, not with my family anymore. So I left my family house very early, at 16. And then I decided to study abroad. And I met Zahar Brun, and that was my first, no, sorry, not first. Before I was studying with Maxim Töns
Mhm.
in Paris. And that name is also very important, if not the most important for my career, because he was a concertmeister in l'Opéra Bastille, and really one of the greatest violinists I have ever met in my life, orchestra musician, but on the level of the best soloist. Well, and I learned so much from him. And after that period of studying with him, I was ready to meet Zahar Brun. It was like step by step. When I met Zahar Brun, it was also very special because there was a master class and I applied for this master class, but I didn't know there is some kind of how to say kind of audition for that. It was like, you know, I applied and I thought, okay, I can take part in that master class. It was pretty weird and somehow too easy. But then I came there, it was in Switzerland, and I saw like around 100 violinists there. And I said, my gosh, it's just 1 week of master class. It's impossible, there must be some kind of selection. Well, and there was one. There were like 18 places only, and he brought his own students. It was 17 students of him, so they were like, it was clear they were there in.
Yeah.
Well, so there was just one place, and I won that place for the lesson with Zahar Brun. And it started like 7 years of really wonderful collaboration with him. I learned so much, and he was for me like a father, like, I mean, this feeling of taking care of me and of my playing and preparing me for different things. It was really very, very precious for me. And Benjamin Schmidt, I met also in Switzerland, and I learned so much from him, completely different thing
Mhm.
than from Zahar Brun.
Yeah.
If I may tell you what, because I think it might be also interesting for some of the listeners of our interview. He told me, I will never forget that, and I'm doing that till today. He told me that because he's a very well organized person. By the way, some colleagues, I mean, all colleagues of mine who are really great soloists, they are so well organized, because you must be well organized if you are a soloist, because you must combine so many aspects of life together. Well, so he told me, remember, when you play a piece, write down everything, every single detail, every fingering, every bowing, every dynamic, and some kind of tricks that you discover. For example, how to practice certain passage. Write it down, because if you take the piece in some years, you play it today, then you don't play it anymore for 10 years. Let's say in 10 years, you take the piece, you have to play it again. You will just use 5% of the time to learn it, or to remind it. Then you would start from I would say notes or score without any marks from you. And I'm doing that since then, and I tell you, this is one of the most important advice I got from the great soloist, and I really recommend that to anyone.
So you really think that structure is one of the most important things when you're learning?
I would say, yeah. Yeah, it's equally important with, of course, with other things. But if you have no structure, um, you know, you won't be so efficient and so good as the structure is there. So yeah, I really warmly recommend to also to work on your system of work, not only to, you know, the quality of your playing, which is obvious for everyone, but also the structure, how to, you know, organize your score, your work daily, you know, routines, things like this.
Mm, I see. I see. So it all comes together. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Or
Hmm.
of course, because, you know, being a soloist, it's not a normal occupation. So I
Yeah.
have to say, my family was really it's very complicated occupation, but if, of course, you have to love it. If you love it, you can't live without that. So it's also other thing, but you have to combine not only being a musician. You know, musicians are also a normal people. We are also human beings. We have normal things to do,
Hmm.
and we have to find a solution for a daily life
Right.
and being an artist. So this is quite challenging,
Mm, yeah, of course.
especially if you are young, and especially if you don't have yet a team of people who are supporting you.
Mm, right. Well, I read online actually. You mentioned the dangers of fast food culture in the art. So I was
Again,
wondering, what exactly is this?
well, you know, what is fast food? I mean, fast food is something that is tasty,
Yeah.
very unhealthy,
Uh-huh.
and has not really good quality for our health. So, as a food, of course.
Yeah.
But in music, because nowadays we, you know, we are, because of many things, also, you know, internet, things like this, the classical music and pop music are so close together that sometimes we overtake some things from pop which are not, I would say, not necessarily good for the classical music, because classical music was meant for different things, for different people, and pop music was meant also for different type of people, and both are, of course, are fine, but I don't think that we should make some kind of mixture
Mm,
just to get to win a public and win money. I understand, of course, that music is a business as well,
yeah.
and someone has to earn money with that. I mean, we maybe we shouldn't talk about that, because being an artist, it's something, you know, something much higher than that, but this is the reality of the life, of the, you know, agencies, companies, concert organizers, so they want to earn money. And sometimes I think we have to be really careful to keep the quality of the classical music, and not, because, you know, being a classical musician, it's not only a job, it's a
Mm,
vocation, no? It's something more than that. So we should think a little bit more about the quality, about the values, and keep it on the highest possible level, you know?
right. So do you see this sort of fast food commoditization of classical music happening more and more with contemporary composition and contemporary performances?
Well, composition, I wouldn't say that, because contemporary music, I mean, classical contemporary music, I think it's pretty on a pretty good level at the moment. I mean, it's really, you know, by the way, I was a few weeks ago in Lucerne, there was a festival, and I was visiting some concerts of very young composers, you know, and I was so impressed by the level. And I think there is no, of course, sorry, there was some there were some pieces that were combining really pop with classical. So if that is a concept of the composer, fine. This is not my taste, but it's okay if it's done in a good, you know, in a good quality. That's for me, I mean, not a problem. But I would say rather fast food in a classical music, like classical concert, putting some pop to the classical compositions, you know, like Bach or Vivaldi. Well, I understand the concept of bringing everyone to the classical music, but I don't think classical music is for everyone, because, you know, as I told you at the beginning, part of my family was are musicians, and part
Yeah.
of my family are completely no musician, and they have zero interest to the classical music. So because of this, because I have had really a contact with both, I would say, side of the society, I know that doesn't matter what I would do. People who don't like classical music, they will not come to the classical concert. They will just not like it. So we shouldn't, you know, sacrifice the level and everything to get to that part of the society, I think, because now we had such a great choice of the different, type of music, that there is everything for everyone, I think.
Yeah, I see. Well, I mean, you yourself are a composer, a very successful composer at that, and you have had your own touches to your albums, especially in your album Echoes of Bach, which was wonderful, by the way. You added quite a few adjustments to Bach's pieces, and you composed your own original piece wherein you added some singing lines. So I was wondering, what was the intention behind these additions? Why
Well,
change this music?
I mean, I didn't change Bach. It was Bach was original play as Bach wrote. Sorry
Mhm.
for my.
Yeah, no, of course, no problem.
um, but I did some. I mean, I added some improvisation to Westhoff,
Mm,
Jean-Paul Westhoff.
yeah.
Jean-Paul Westhoff was um, great composer, and he wrote the first polyphony ever composed. I mean, the first polyphony we know, because maybe there was something before that we don't know. Never, after so many wars in Europe, could be that something was just, something just disappeared. But from for today, we know the first polyphony written for the violin solo was Westhoff, six suites for Westhoff, and Westhoff and Bach probably they met once, and probably between 1702 and 3 in Weimar. It's not like with the documents, it's not confirmed, but they were together in Weimar at that time, and as you know, when you study the score of both of them, it's just impossible that they didn't know each other. And I think that Bach, this is my opinion. I think Bach came to Weimar also to meet Westhoff, because he was a very famous violinist and composer, and also a teacher of the languages, very, very well educated person. Well, and at that time, the musicians, they were improvising a lot. This is what we lost a little bit. So it was normal that the musicians were improvising between starting the piece, in between the movements. So this is what I did. Actually, I didn't change a lot the original part of Westhoff. I just put some improvisations before, in the middle, between the movements, and some ornamentations that are in the Baroque style, actually allowed. So nothing special. But I was singing through because I was studying singing as well. It was my second instrument. I'm not a singer. I don't consider myself as a singer at all, but voice, it's something what is for me so natural, and it's so close to my heart. And I also think that a violin is my voice. And
Mm,
violin in the human voice, it's actually the same scala. So it's yeah, it was for me something like a normal thing that
right.
can happen to
Yeah,
during the
right. Uh-huh.
so, yeah,
Yeah, because my teachers always tell me to play the violin as if I were singing. So yeah, I can
exactly,
definitely see. Uh-huh. Yeah.
exactly.
Well, we are almost running out of time, so I have a couple more questions.
Mhm.
Um, well, your new album, Mozart in Modern, just released a week ago. Congratulations on that. I was wondering if you could just give us a little bit of information about what inspired you to create that and focus on Mozart.
Well, I'm also Swiss. I'm not only Polish, and I'm Swiss. I live in Switzerland. So the inspiration for that album was a journey that Mozart, when he was 10 years old, he and his family, also Leopold Mozart, his father and mother and sister, they made a great European journey through the Europe. It was like educative journey for young Mozart and his sister. and they were also passing through Switzerland. So the inspiration to that album was that particular part of this European journey. So I followed the path of Mozart's family through Switzerland. So actually I had to go through whole Switzerland, and I was really like discovering places where he was playing. There is even one manuscript, original manuscript, written by 10 years old Mozart in Zurich, and this is in the library of Zurich. You can come and see it. And after following Mozart path through Switzerland, I decided to compose a piece, Reflexes 1766, because that was the year of that journey, and the cadenzas for Mozart's concertos, and so that was the inspiration for this album.
Nice. Interesting. Just out of curiosity, do you prefer Bach or do you prefer playing Mozart?
Please don't ask me that question. No, I cannot answer that really. I mean,
Yeah, both are amazing. Both are great. Okay.
I would be, if you tell me you know, you stay alone, you till your rest of your life with one score only, I would choose Bach.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, to close off, last question. I just wanted to end with any tips you might have for young musicians because I know on your Instagram, you have a lot of videos about exercises which might benefit students. So I was wondering, do you have any tips in particular for young musicians who are aspiring to become professionals in the industry?
Well, on my Instagram account, you can find a lot of tips for the technique. So
Mhm.
I will not tell you some technical tips here, but um, what I would advise really, every young musician, because of the really great possibility that we have today because of the internet, AI, and things like this. Uh, uh, Remember that your musical career, there are two legs, not only one, because one leg must be your level. Of course, you have to work on your technique, and this is, I think, it's obvious thing. We need to be good musicians,
Yeah.
so do everything you can. Go to the best teacher you know. Also look at the other students, other successful students, and just follow the path of people that you admire. But the second leg is career. So
Mm.
this is what we, for example, in Europe, I don't know, maybe in United States, it's different thing. But in Europe, there is actually nothing about this. You just have to figure out yourself how to develop your career. If you want to have a career in the orchestra, then the path is very clear because you have to make auditions, and it's very, organized way to get there. But if you want to be a soloist, you have to figure out yourself. So my advice is make connections. This is very, very important thing. Go to the concerts, talk to people, and start it in a very, very young age. Don't lose your time because it's equally important as your level. Because if you have one and you don't have another thing, it
Yeah.
will not work. Doesn't matter what, which which leg is missing, but both are equally important.
Mm. Right. That makes sense. Definitely. Yeah. Very valuable for advice. I think for any young person aspiring to become successful.
Thank you so much for your invitation. It was really a great pleasure and also honor to talk to you and to your public. And I really cross fingers for everyone who is playing the violin, and and have that mood and that energy to
Yeah.
make music.
Best of luck to everyone in their journeys, of course. Well, thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.